kick off math for this morning. I just want to do a quick review of a little bit of dividing with decimals, and then we're going to go on to our new topic for today. Yesterday, I saw most of you did really well on the adding, subtracting, and multiplying with decimals. And the reason I keep going over decimals and fractions is because everything we do from now on, from this day forward, is going to build on decimals and fractions. So you're going to be using decimals and fractions. You're going to use them in algebra, you're going to use them in proportions, and you're going to use them in rates and ratios. All of these things are going to build on each other. That's why I keep going over it. And you're like, no, not again. I want to make sure you got it. All right, it's been several weeks and I keep hammering on it, the same kind of topics, but I want to make sure you get it. It's very important that you understand how to use decimals and fractions, especially multiplication and division. That's also why it's so very important that you pass MobyMax Math Facts. It will help you in the long run just to make sure that you know and understand how numbers work and all your math facts. All right. So that's why we're going to keep doing it. And I'm going to keep giving you assignments on decimals and fractions throughout this week and next week and beyond. So I just want to make sure you really, truly, thoroughly understand how to work with decimals and fractions. All right, let's do a couple of problems here on your whiteboards. We're going to go over division. We're just going to do a quick review, and then I'm going to get into the new stuff. Okay, dividing with decimals, division. There's my whiteboard view. Hopefully you can see it. If you can't see it, I want you to go ahead and put your camera into a nice view where you can see my questions. All right, my rule for dividing with decimals, okay, 1.26, 1 and 2600ths divided by 0.2, 0.2. And it's been a little while, but I want to go over it one more time. My rule for dividing with decimals, I just saw this movie the other day, and it reminded me of the song, you've got to move it, move it. You've got to move it, move it. Okay, you've got to move that decimals when you divide. So you have to move the decimal to make it a whole number on the outside. So if you move the decimal once on the outside, that means you're multiplying by 10 to make it a whole number. That means you have to move the decimal again on the inside. So now once, because you would multiply by 10 on the inside. And if you move the decimal, you bring it above the line and you finish the division problem. Okay, so first thing you do when you divide with decimals, you've got to move it, move it. You've got to move that decimal. All right, go ahead and finish up this problem. Let's check it. Finish the problem, please. We'll check it and make sure that you remember how to divide with decimals. Good, good, good. This is a quick one. I'm hoping that, yes, I'm seeing lots of whiteboards, the backs of the whiteboards. Okay, after you move the decimal, if it helps, you can rewrite the problem so it looks nicer after you move that decimal. Then it's a little less messy and you can see the information so much easier. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3, show me. Show me what you got. Yes, very good. 6.3. 6.3 is the correct answer. All right, let's do 1 or 2 more just to make sure you remember how to divide with decimals, especially if you need to plug a 0 in there. Oof, that marker's getting wiped out here. All right, let's try another one here. I'm trying to look for some easier numbers. Okay, let's go with 9.63 divided by 0.3. All right, there you go. Solve this one on your own, please. Yes, thank you, Mason. That was from previous. You need to double check your math on that division. All righty, there you go. Thank you. Show me the back of your whiteboards, or you can go ahead and blow my chat up. It's okay. Plug your numbers, your answers in here, and I'll say a yay or nay. Yes, yes, yes. I'm seeing correct answers in the chat. Uh-oh, there's a mistake there. Oh, I saw one mistake, but everybody else looks like they got it. Oh yeah, lots of good answers. Thank you so much. And show me your whiteboards. If you got your answers on your whiteboard, you did the work. Show me that beautiful work. Nice and neat, fantastic. Yes, you would move the decimal. You got to move it and move it. Move it once outside, move it once inside. Bring it above the line. Final answer, 32.1. 32.1 is the correct answer. Very good. We're going to do one more because there is an instant. Aaron, stop it. Otherwise, I will shut it off. Okay. There we have it. One more problem. And remember, this one's a little bit trickier because the decimal is not here, or I should say the decimal is invisible. You have to write in the decimal. You're not allowed to give me an answer with a remainder. You have to give me an answer with a decimal. Okay, give me an answer with a decimal. Do not leave a remainder. Remainders are no longer allowed. You have to use decimals. All righty. There you go. Now I'm getting some answers in the chat. Thank you very much. Yes, Josie, fix it. Do what you got to do. Isabella, not quite. Yes, yes, yes. I'm seeing lots of good answers. Uh-oh, Zanaya, nope. Michael, your decimal's in the wrong spot. Nope. Uh-oh, we got a couple of wrong answers here. I'm going to go over the answer with you just to make sure that you remember the process. All right. There's no decimal on the outside, so you don't have to move anything on the inside. But if you start dividing, 2 goes into 2 one whole time. 2 does not go into 1. You have to have a 0 there. You have to have the 0 for the placeholder. All right. 2 does go into 15 7 times. 7 times 2 is 14. That's 1 left over. However, you don't get to give me a remainder. You have to put a decimal and add a 0. Put a decimal and plug in a 0. Okay. Once you put a decimal, though, you have to bring it above the line to make sure your answer also has the decimal. But then you get to bring down the 0 and say, how many times does 2 go into 10? And that would fit 5 times. 107.5 was the correct answer. I got a lot of right answers in the chat. I saw a lot of right answers in the on the whiteboards. I appreciate both of those. I appreciate all your efforts to continue practicing with me to make sure that you understand how to divide with decimals. Now, before we took our test, before we were testing, we were also practicing on fractions, okay? We were doing multiplication of fractions, all right? And if you remember, if you multiply fractions, you simply take the top times the top and the bottom times the bottom to get your final answers. All right. The reason that I'm going back over fractions as well is because we are now going to be getting into dividing with fractions. Dividing with fractions. All right. And I'm going to share with you why or how this works. Okay. If I have 8/3 and I want to divide 8/3 into 1/3, I'm going to share with you how this works first. So if I can just make sure you're looking at the camera, make sure you're paying very close attention. I'm going to explain why this works. And then I'm going to show you the shortcut because I'm all about shortcuts. It makes my life so much easier. All right, 8/3. First thing I want to do is find 8/3. So I know that thirds, if I have my whole numbers on a number line, okay, 8/3, I have 1/3, 2/3, and I'm just making thirds here in between my whole numbers. So 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, 4/3, 5/3, 6/3, 7/3, and 8/3. Okay, there it is. It's 8/3. So 8/3 is now on my number line. And I want to divide that up by 3/3 or 1/3, 1/3. I want to know how many 1/3s fit into 8/3. That's what I want to know. So I'm going to jump and say, okay, there's 1/3 and see how many jumps I get to 8/3. There's 2/3, 3/3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How many jumps did I make total? I made 8 jumps total. So I know that there are 8 1/3s in 8/3. All right. Now you may think, well, that was easy because you're dividing by 1/3. 1/3. But if I were to show you another one, like I'm going to rewrite another problem here. How about 8/3? And I'm going to divide it by 2/3. Okay, 8/3 divided by 2/3. And now I'm going to jump to the 2/3. So I start here and I go 2/3, 4/3, 6/3, 8/3. All right. How many times did I have to jump to get from nothing? But I jumped 2/3 at a time to get to 8/3. Well, I only had to jump 1, 2, 3, 4 times to get to 8/3. All right, so I'm showing you that when you divide, you're just seeing how many of these can fit into those, just like regular division. Now for the fun part, the shortcut. I'm all about a shortcut, and I'm going to show you these shortcuts quite a bit. Okay. The shortcut, let's start with our original problem. 8/3 divided by 1/3 is the same thing as taking that original 8/3, so your first fraction stays the same, and multiplying it by the reciprocal. Okay, everybody say reciprocal. Yeah. Oh, I see your lips moving. Hopefully you at least mouth the words. Okay, reciprocal means you're going to flip it. So you have to flip that second fraction upside down. Because if you multiply by the reciprocal, you're going to get the same answer. 8 times 3 is 24. 3 times 1 is 3. And 24 divided by 3 equals 8. Same answer as going through this whole line jumping process. Okay. Now I'll show you again the second fraction that we did. 8/3 divided by 2/3. Take the first fraction. The first fraction always stays the same. You can't change the fact that you're starting with 8/3. You multiply by the reciprocal. So you change division to multiplication, and then you have to flip the second fraction to 3/2. Okay? Then you have 8 times 3 is 24, and 3 times 2 is 6. 24 divided by 6 equals 4. So this is how you divide fractions. You keep your first fraction the same, you rewrite it. You have to rewrite the whole problem. You change division to multiplication, and you flip the second fraction upside down. Now, when I was in school, there was a little rhyme and it said, don't ask why, just invert and multiply. So you invert the second fraction and then you multiply it. Then you can solve the problem, okay? All right, I have about 20 minutes left, and I'm going to give you a, aha, yes, I see. I'm going to give you a couple of problems on your whiteboard, so I want you to get your whiteboards ready to practice here. There we go. All right, problems here for practicing. Yeah. All right, let's see. Let's take, I got your whiteboards, sorry, my page flipped over. Let's take 1/3 and divide it by 1/2. Okay, 1/3 divided by 1/2. It's kind of funny because my first two examples ended up being whole numbers, but this one is not going to be a whole number. Okay. Yes. I see answers in the chat. That's fantastic. You keep the first fraction the same. The first fraction always stays the same. Divide becomes multiply. 1/2, you have to flip it, becomes 2/1. And yes, everyone who has texted me, 1 times 2 is 2, and 3 times 1 is 3. 2/3 is the final answer. Yes. All right, good deal. Let's do a couple more. All right, there you go. Lost my page. Shouldn't be that difficult. Okay, next problem, let's do 3/5 divided by 1/2. Yes, I tried to trick you a little bit, but you got it. Yes. Liliana, Shinashi, Kendall, and Brooklyn. Yes. I'm seeing lots and lots of right answers. Fantastic. Uh-oh, Alexia, you forgot to flip the second one. All right, I saw two answers. If you keep the first one, 3/5. Okay, keep your first fraction the same. Always, first fraction stays the same. Divide becomes multiply. 1/2 becomes 2/1. You have to flip that second fraction. You have to multiply by the reciprocal. All right, so I saw 6/5 I did see as an answer. Now 6/5 can reduce. That was another thing that we talked about before we took our big math test here. 6/5, you cannot have a top number that's bigger than a bottom number. So this, remember, this line right here means divide. 6 divided by 5, yes, now you got it. 6 divided by 5, okay, means that 5 goes into 6 one whole time with the remainder of 1, leaving you 1 and 1/5. Or you can do it the other way where you say 6 minus 5/5 one whole time, and 1/5 is left over. So remember, 6/5 equals 1 and 1/5. Okay. Ooh, Christopher, I appreciate your your chat there. All right. Let's do a couple more just to make sure you're getting the hang of it. We will practice this a lot. Like I said, lots and lots of practice on decimals and fractions. Let's do 1/6 divided by 2/3. Okay, okay, all right. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, I see some people got part of it correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm seeing 2 answers for this one as well. And they're both correct, but one is more correct than the other. Uh-oh, Jaslyn, you don't divide the top by the bottom of that one, but you do reduce. Okay, 1/6 stays 1/6. Divide becomes multiply, and 2/3 becomes 3/2. 3/2, and I wrote this one very tiny. There we go. 1/3, or 1 times 3 is 3. 6 times 2 is 12, and you have 3/12. However, Alyssa, you can't divide the top by the bottom because the top 3 is less than 12. Although 3 and 12 can both divide by 3. This is that reducing that we're talking about. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. 1/4. Final answer, yes, 1/4. Chloe, you only have to put it in the chat once. Thank you very much. All right, you guys are getting really good at this. Let's do another, just because I think it's very important that we go over these a lot. Okay, there we go. Next problem. Next problem, how about 2/7? Whoop, here it is. 2/7 divided by 2/5. There you go. Jaslyn, reduce that answer. Yes, Bethany. Yes, Kindlin. Yes, Rosie. Yes, Liliana. Yes, Shinashi. Zanaya, reduce that answer. Brooklyn, good. Oh, Drake, reduce your answer. Alexia, reduce your answer. Yes, yes, yes. Bella, reduce your answer. Yes, yes, yes. You guys got it. Michael, reduce your answer. Aaron, reduce your answer. There you go. Yep. Chloe, Isabella, good, good. Xavier, Drake, yep. I'm seeing lots and lots of right answers. Sebastian, no. We're going to try again. Hayden, reduce your answer. All right. Let's see. Aubrey, no. All right. The question, a question came to me. What is reducing? All right. Let's solve the problem to make sure we got it. 2/7 stays 2/7. You always keep your original number, your original fraction that you start with. Okay, keep the original fraction. Divide becomes multiply. Second fraction flips. So instead of 2/5, you have 5/2, just like so. Okay, now 2 times 5 is 10, and 7 times 2 is 14. And when I say reduce your answer, reduce means that 10 and 14 are both even numbers. So that means they both divide by 2. They both divide by 2 because they're even numbers. And this is why MobyMax is so very important. And knowing your math facts is so very important, because you have to kind of know this mental math in order to reduce fractions. It's a gift. It's a skill that you can develop and work on. 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 14 divided by 2 is 7. Therefore, your final answer is 5/7. So hopefully that answered that question of how you reduce. Reducing is dividing. You have to divide the top number and the bottom number of the fraction by the same thing. That's reducing. Okay. Alrighty. Here's what I got going on for you today. Yep. Oh, Sebastian said, oops, you typed the wrong thing. Yes. Here's what I got going on for you today. I do have another Edge Elastic test for you, and we have about 15 minutes left for right now, but I want you to go on Edge Elastic. You're going to do that quiz, okay? That's what you're going to do right now. Yesterday, I believe everybody got on Edge Elastic. The quiz, though, is about, here we go. The quiz is about dividing with decimals, though, all right? So I'm not testing you on what you just learned today. We're going to practice that more before the end of the week, but the quiz is about dividing decimals. So everyone's going on Edge Elastic now. You're going to log in. You're going to take the 10 questions.
Log into joinpd.com, if you would, please. And we will go ahead and get started here momentarily. Okay. Okay. All right, today's code, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Today's code, right here. ZZDLQB. So go ahead and take about 60 seconds and log in for me, if you would, please. And then we're going to review a little bit on voice and writing today. And then later this week, I'm going to be taking questions. We're going to get back into expository or informative writing and talk about different strategies that we can use with that. So the reading assessment that we took for iReady, there's a lot of questions, good questions about, you know, why are we doing that? What are we using it for? Well, the one thing, at least in my homeroom, and I'm sure the other homerooms as well, is we definitely need to address reading nonfiction. So it was definitely an area that we need to focus on and improve. And one way that we can do that is being able to write about nonfiction topics as well. So we're going to be going over strategies that, even though they're applicable to writing, that we can use, like as Mr. Mullen has pointed out, you may have seen a lot of things that connect both reading and writing, and you're going to see even more of that in the coming weeks. So we're going to wrap up voice today, and then we're going to get into looking at some more structure. We could spend the entire year just focusing on organization as a writing trait, and but yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit more about that this week and probably the next 4 weeks, actually. So once you have the structure, you have a basic structure to work from. It's actually writing, well, just like anything else, once you have a basic structure to work from, things are considerably easier. Okay, I've got about 72 people in the room at this point. I'll wait for a few more and then we'll go ahead and get started. So you're going to be working, you're going to be doing a lot of writing on your own today. So today's lesson is going to be significantly more brief than the others. So because I want to give you some time to write and use some of the skills that we've been talking about. Again, we're on joinpd.com. At this point, we've got just a little over half the room logged in and ready to go. Okay, let's start. Okay, so we're talking about voice in writing. Yesterday, we looked at a couple of different movie clips and seeing, at least in a dramatic situation or situations, how character is voiced. So when we write, and especially in a narrative situation, the words that our character or characters use are important because they tell us. We jump to conclusions all the time. Our brain is a pattern-seeking device, which means that we are always, whether or not we're aware of it, we're always trying to connect dots, and we're forming thoughts all the time. And obviously, those thoughts range from good to bad and everything in between. But the words that a character uses is important because it tells us a little bit about maybe their education, where they're from, how they view the world. So voice is an important and probably the least discussed part of writing. And so that's the narrative part of voice. But even when we're writing nonfiction, it's a valuable tool, especially in nonfiction, actually, because nonfiction, it's really easy to make that dry and just, man, I really don't want to read this. But there are some things that you can do to make that much more engaging. So again, we talked about this yesterday. What is voice in writing? It's simply the personality of the writer coming through the written text. So that is what voice is in writing. How do we put voice in our writing? Well, we've talked about two strategies so far. One is the word choice that we use. So using strong verbs, different types of sentence structures. So even though we didn't watch the movie clip of Forrest Gump yesterday, Forrest Gump uses very simple sentences, very basic vocabulary. And then one of the clips that we did see yesterday was Vizzini from Princess Bride. And he was very into letting people know how smart he is. So using big words, analyzing, very bombastic, very arrogant. And so that tells us a lot about a character as well. So it's not only what they say, it's what they do. So when we talk about word choice, so what types of words are they using? Big, small, formal, slang, what types of words are they using? So I know we did this yesterday, but we ran short of time. So I want you, and I know some of you, I can already feel the eyes rolling, but I want us to give this another look and another try here. So I'm going to read this paragraph, and then I just want you to answer these, let's see, five questions. The room is scary. I have never attended school before. There's not one person in this room that I know. Some even look mean. One little girl has been crying since she arrived. I think she wants to go home to her mother. I do too, but I am going to try not to cry. The teacher gave us each a name tag shaped like an apple. She wrote my name as Anna B. No one ever called me that before. So this particular paragraph has a very distinctive voice or point of view. So who do you think is speaking in this paragraph? So the clues that you need are all here in the text, but who do you think is speaking in this paragraph? Do you think they're male or female? And what's the situation? And how does the writer feel about this situation? And more specifically, how does the writer let you know these feelings? So go ahead and take, I'll give you 4 minutes. Well, actually, I'll give you 5. Give you 5 minutes to answer those 5 questions, and then go ahead and type them in the response bar at the bottom, and then we'll move on. So 5 minutes, answer these 5 questions. I know many of you answered them yesterday, so a lot of you will be kind of calling on what you said yesterday, but reread it again. Take a closer look today. Sometimes things change. So Mr. Mullen, I was gonna, by the time I finish this lesson here in a few minutes and give them time to work independently, my goal is to take them to about 10:15, and then give them a couple minutes for a break. Is that gonna give you enough time to do your lesson? Mr. Mullen?
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was muted.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I don't think that'll cut me short.
Okay. I'll go ahead and get these guys going here. I'll try to take them. I'll take them till 10:10.
Okay, that sounds good.
10:10, and then I'll give them a 10-minute break. So like 10:20, give you enough time?
Fine. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, let's go ahead. I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment, and then I'm going to read some of these responses here. I think that Anna B is talking. I believe she's female. She is nervous and scared. She said that the room was scary. She lets us know her feelings when she said a little girl has been crying since she got here. I think she wants to go home to her mother. I do too. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Anna's speaking. The person is Anna. She's a female. I know Anna is scared. She wants to go home. All right. A girl, she feels scared because she's at school. When she says the room is scary and she thinks that some people look mean. Okay, good, good, good. She's nervous. Yeah, new student, Anna B. Never attended school before. Yeah, like this person, I hope it's okay. But like Chloe, Raranta actually even quoted the text. So wrote her name is Anna B. She's nervous. The room is scary. There's not one person in this room that I know. Describing things that she doesn't like about it. The room is scary. Some people look mean. Good, good, good. Yeah, Anna B, she's a girl. And obviously from the passage, it's her first day of school. So more than likely, if we're trying to draw some conclusions about that, more than likely kindergarten, first day of school. So everything is strange and alien, and the teacher gave her a name tag shaped like an apple. And Anna B, and of course, Anna is thinking, nobody has ever called me that before. Probably because there's so many students in the classroom, she's seeing that last initial there for the first time. She's just used to being called Anna or Annie or Ann maybe. And then suddenly her teacher is calling her by a different name. And not just calling her by a different name, writing it on that apple-shaped name tag. Okay, so let's come back. I'm going to share my screen again, and then we're going to talk about the assignment that I'm going to have you do here in just a moment. So share screen. Okay. So here is what we're going to do, and I'll explain this. You're going to write somewhere between 9 and 15 sentences using 3 different voices. So the topic is homework on the weekends. So you are going to establish a position whether we should or should not have homework on the weekends through 3 distinct character voices. So what do I mean by that? Homework on the weekends, you're going to write a student response.
That's one of our strategies to get the big view, and then we reread it to get more specific information and to gather clues as to its specific meaning. So I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to come to literacy footprints. What made me sick? Okay. What made me sick? And we're talking about frog tank fever. While we reread this, we're going to review some of the strategies that we've used so far. I'm also going to give you a new word. It will be a new vocabulary word that you will add to your collection of words that we have now on our vocabulary slides number 3. And that word is clarify. I say it at the very beginning so that you'll have a clue that when we start talking about that as a strategy, you will understand what it is that we're talking about. But don't worry about that now, just heads up, it's coming, okay? So we're going to review some strategies that we have. And the first one will come just as we begin rereading. Remember, all of these are things that we can use. They come out of our toolbox when we are reading. We use them like we use tools, different tools for different situations. Sometimes you have your favorite tool. Sometimes, you know, you have a tool that you use only once in a great while, but when it is that specific situation, it's a good thing to have. And so we're going to review those as we go through. And then tomorrow we're going to do some writing. Frog tank fever. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read, and then I'm going to pause, and then we're going to take out one of our tools, our comprehension tools, our strategies, and we're going to use it. Okay? We're going to read the first page together. Follow along as I read aloud. Frog tank fever. One day in 2009, an elementary student became very ill with diarrhea, a fever, stomach cramps, and vomiting. Another child had similar symptoms just a week later. In the following weeks, many children got sick. Children get sick all the time, but these kids were not sick with the flu or another virus caught at school. They were infected with bacteria called salmonella. There are more than 2,500 different kinds of salmonella. Strangely, all the children were sick from the exact same kind, but they didn't know each other and they lived far apart. By the end of 2009, 85 people in 31 states had become sick. 4 out of every 5 were children. As more children came down with salmonella poisoning, government officials started to investigate. Why was salmonella making kids sick in so many different places at once? It would take a huge team of disease detectives to solve the mystery. Now, the first strategy we're going to use is that of making a prediction. Now, prediction, that tool, we kind of use it a little differently depending on what genre or what type of reading we're immersed in right then. So if we're reading fiction or narrative, that is a story, we're going to ask ourselves when we make a prediction, what do you think is going to happen next? But that doesn't quite fit nonfiction or informative reading. Instead, what we should ask ourselves is, what do you think you will learn next? And then, this is a really good strategy, but use the headings to make your prediction, okay? So, let's go back, and I don't know how else to do except stop share and then share again. Okay, so we've read the page. Now it's time to make a prediction. And remember what they said. What kind of genre is this? Are we reading for a story with characters, plot? Or are we reading something for information? Well, this time we're reading for information. That's right. And so the suggestion from our cards, our strategy card or our tool, is that we often look at the subtitles to get a clue as to what we're going to learn next. The question is, what am I next going to learn? Unsolved mysteries. Okay? So, we've already read the situation, so let's make a prediction. Oh, I should have kept it there. Sorry, guys. in our Google Classroom, you have this available to you. And we're going to fill this out together. It is for a grade, but if you work at it and you just stay with us during this period that we have while we're doing this lesson, you can get all of it or most of it done. So here we go. And quite honestly, I do not care at this point if you just take the ideas that we get together and put it on your sheet. So go to your Google Classroom, pull this up and put it on the side so that you can also fill it in as we go. I also want to tell you that if we go too fast, if you are a slower typer than Mr. Mullen, that's okay. But if you are slow at typing or at getting it on the page, you can go and on our web page, on our Google Classroom rather, we have the lessons being filmed, videos. And so you can go back and you can review this and you can get the answers for this sheet, okay? So let's make a prediction about what we are going to learn next. I think we will learn how these children became sick and what caused them to be infected by salmonella. Now, if you look at mine, I believe that I misspelled salmonella. That's okay, I can go fix that later, okay? So, that's our first strategy. Now, you can copy that. You can use that as your answer, I don't care. Or you can use your own, okay? But you see how we did it. We took the subtitles and we took them as clues and we made a prediction, okay? Well, let's go back to our text. Now, we are going to read page number 7, at least part of it, on the case. Scientists look for patterns in illnesses. For example, when they find a lot of children across the country getting sick from the same germ, they look for what the children have in common, a pattern. Whenever doctors find salmonella in a patient, they upload the bacteria's fingerprint to a national database that all the state health departments use. And just as the police look up fingerprints to find criminals, health officials look up fingerprints to identify bad bugs. On September 29th, 2009, the team of scientists checking the database found the same salmonella fingerprints in many places at once. Okay, I want us to stop here because I want us to take out our next tool or our strategy. And so this time the strategy is going to be to clarify. Now clarify is kind of a fancy way of getting more understanding. And if you're confused on something, what you want to do is you want to clarify. You want to make it more clear than what it is in the passage. So what confused you as you read that passage on page 7, the first half of it? Were there any words or ideas that you didn't understand? How did you figure them out? Well, let's talk about that, okay? Okay. clarify. Well, one question I have when I look at this is this one word. I don't understand what this word means. Database. Database. So maybe what I need to do, because it seems to indicate that whatever this word means, that it's a tool that's used by state health departments to identify sicknesses. So here I'm going to come and I'm just going to ask the question and answer it. I am not sure what the text means when it uses the word database. Okay? Now, when you come up to a place where something is extremely crucial and important for you to understand, and you won't understand anything else unless you come to an understanding of this idea or concept or word that the author's using, you must stop and you must figure out what that word means. Now, we've talked about some of the simpler words. Sometimes we come up and we don't know what it means, and we can just use a substitution for it. But this time, I don't think there is a substitution quite for the word database, at least not for me, because maybe my knowledge is too limited. So what I would do is I would go to the internet, go to Mr. Google, and type in database. And almost right away, it's going to give me a definition. A database is a structured set of data held in a computer, especially one that's accessible in various ways. So it's an organized collection of data. So that's what I need to put in there. Database, according to the dictionary, right, is a collection of data that is organized for easy retrieval or understanding. Okay? Okay. So then we go back to the text. The team's first step to finding out, right here, the team's first step to finding out why was to talk to the families of the sick children. Scientists spoke to 11 families that winter, and the investigating team thought the source might be food, such as a cracker or string cheese that had been distributed across the nation and on shelves for months. Eventually, the scientists came to believe that either cheese crackers or a pet living in a fish tank was the source of the salmonella outbreak. To narrow down the possibilities even more, the scientists talked to more of the sick children's families and compared them to the families who hadn't gotten sick. They found that more than half of the sick kids had been around frogs. Only one of the healthy kids had. Finally, the culprit was found: African dwarf frogs. These tiny frogs have become popular pets starting in the 1970s, but from 2009 to 2011, they made 241 people in 42 states sick. So, our Our next tool is one that you've used before. It is to question. As we read that last half of page 7, what questions did you ask yourself as you read? What were you wondering as you were reading? So, here we go. Take it one step at a time. And all I'm going to do is write here a question I might have asked as we read the second part of this page. The most basic question of all, how can frogs make you sick? Okay? Come back to literacy footprints, go to the next page. The last part of the investigation involved finding where the salmonella came from. Scientists asked families where they had gotten their frogs. Some had gotten them from pet stores, so researchers asked those pet stores where they had gotten the animals in the first place. The frogs with the salmonella didn't just come from pet stores. Some families ordered them. Others won them as prizes at county fairs. All the investigations led to one frog breeder in California. When a healthy specialist visited the facility to inspect it, the breeder was happy to help. The owner was very concerned. He did not want to cause illness in children or anyone else. The health specialist teams checked the tank water, frog food, sinks, and drains. Then they helped him make changes. They called the pest control for cockroaches, which also carry salmonella. They put in hand washing sinks for employees. They tested all his frogs for salmonella. It took a while, but soon everything was clean. The frog breeder now tests every frog before it goes out. But where did the frogs get the germs? Scientists never found out. And the frogs are keeping their kissable lips sealed. Okay? So when you get done with the writing, it is extremely important, or as you read certain sections and you come to an end of a section even, it is extremely important that we do this last strategy. And that is to summarize. Use key ideas to tell what you've read in 1 or 2 sentences. Be clear and concise. What does the word concise mean? It means to be brief. Don't add a lot of detail, just get at the heart of the matter, okay? So here we have our text. Now what I want you to do is write a summary, okay? A summary. You're only getting the main points, right? So if we were to write it together, remember I said you can use what we have on this page right here to do your assignment. If we are going to write it together, I might write it like this. A few years ago, many children in the United States were infected by the bacteria Salmonella. No one knew how they had gotten sick. The government began investigating and discovered that the link between all these sick persons was frogs. These frogs were pets and had somehow gotten the bacteria. Now, that's a really, really simple, I'm not really happy with all that summary, but it's not bad. It gets to the main point, kind of describes the article. Okay, there's one more strategy, and you're going to do this part by yourself. Make a connection. Remember, make a connection. Readers do this, good readers do this all the time. And what they do is they make a connection in one of three ways. One of three basic ways. They make a connection with the world. That means their experience, okay? What they have gone through in their life, okay? Maybe you've had a pet, you know? Maybe you can identify, make a connection with this. Maybe you've even had a frog as a pet, and you can make a connection with this article and the information in the article because of your experience of having a frog as a pet. Maybe we make a connection with, not with our experiences, but with our feelings. And that is making a connection within ourselves. And so you might say, I have been very sick, and I know what that's like. So you make a connection there. Sometimes we make a connection through our reading. Now, this whole passage, What Made Me Sick, Fog Tank Fever, is in the genre of a mystery. And it's something that has to be figured out. And you can say, I liked reading this because I too have faced a mystery. And I enjoy reading mysteries. So I want you to make a connection, put it there, and then you're done with it for the day. Okay? Okay. There is one more vocabulary word today. And the word is clarify. C-L-A-R-I-F-Y. It means to make clear or to bring more understanding to a subject. Okay? Miss Digby, I did not write that on our word list. Okay?